What's up, Internet? What's up, St. Lucia? What's up to the wider world? Welcome back to day 2 on my journey on YouTube. This morning's video will be about a promise being a comfort to a fool. And would Taiwan be a fool to find comfort in the promise of President Joe Biden to intervene if mainland China was to invade militarily? So let's talk about it. All right. Okay, we got a little glitch up in here. Let's move that out of the way. Bear with me for 1 second. All right. So, Joe Biden, the U.S. would intervene with military to defend Taiwan. President Joe Biden speaks during a news conference with the Japanese Prime Minister on Monday. President Joe Biden said Monday that the U.S. would intervene militarily if China were to invade Taiwan, saying the burden to protect Taiwan is even stronger after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Pause. These are things that we need to take very close note of when reading articles ourselves. What about the Russia-Ukraine invasion has made it even stronger than the burden to protect Taiwan? What about the Russia-Ukraine invasion has made the burden to protect Taiwan even stronger? Right? That is one thing that they don't speak on in this article, because they speak in these niceties of, oh, since this Ukraine-Russia invasion, we gotta be sure to defend Taiwan. But you have to remember, the US was egging Ukraine on to poke the bear with the Russia situation. And this is not me saying that Russia is justified in its invasion, but the US was giving Ukraine reassurance, guarantee, promise that comforted them, why they felt willing to stand up to Vladimir Putin's invasion, right, rather than going to the negotiating table earlier. So when calls for example, the what do they call that again, no-fly zone, were a thing for the Russia-Ukraine situation, America said, hey, we ain't going that far. We'll give you guys guns, we'll give you bullets, we'll give you bombs, but we're not going to put our boots on the grounds or planes in the sky, right? But given Joe Biden's statements here, I do not understand what makes the burden stronger since then. Biden at a news conference in Tokyo said yes when asked if he is willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if China invades. That's the commitment we made, he added. That is the commitment we made. The US traditionally has avoided making such an explicit security guarantee to Taiwan. But we're going to talk about why that's kind of an inaccurate statement to make here, given what was said, or at least what they're quoting, right? Because I didn't listen to his press conference, so I'm not sure what else he specifically said. But if he did specify other things, it's poor journalism on their part for not adding it. But let's continue. The US traditionally has avoided making such an explicit security guarantee to Taiwan, with which it no longer has a mutual defense treaty, instead maintaining a policy of strategic ambiguity. As in, like, we're going to say things without saying things about how far it would be willing to go if China invaded. The 1979 Taiwan Relations Act, which we're going to take a look at in a second, which has governed the U.S. relations with the island, does not require the U.S. to step in militarily to defend Taiwan if China invades, but makes it American policy to ensure Taiwan has the resources to defend itself and to prevent any unilateral change to the status of Taiwan by Beijing. Okay, so let's take a look at the Taiwan Relations Act, right? And that is HR 2479, the Taiwan Relations Act. This is sourced from the congress.gov, so officially sourced. And let's take a look down here. The Taiwan Relations Act declares it to be the policy of the United States to provide and promote extensive, close, and friendly commercial, cultural, and other relations between. Let's pull this back down here again. Let's try something. Nope, we're going to continue with this pen. where are we at here? Between the people of the United States and the people on Taiwan. All right, but we got to make specific note of this here. On Taiwan. This is going to become very important. This is the things of like when one word makes a massive difference. So, and other relations between the people of the United States and the people on Taiwan, as well as the people on the Chinese mainland and other people of Western Pacific areas, right? So when they say the people on the mainland and other people of Western Pacific areas, they are, how was it said in the previous one here? Let's see if it's still there. They are being strategic ambiguity, right? That right there is the perfect example of strategic ambiguity, where they say what they're really trying to say is that we have direct relations with Taiwan, but they've said it in a way that includes mainland China and includes the Western Pacific area, which technically can be translated or read into as respecting China's one China policy or the 9-dash line, which we'll get into in other videos. So that's them being strategically ambiguous. Declares that peace and stability in the area are in the political, security, and economic interests of the United States. Declares that peace and stability in the area are in the political, security, and economic interests of the United States. This reads to me like the Western equivalency of the Monroe Doctrine, and we'll get into that in a minute. Let's just start this back. Declares that the peace and stability in the area are in the political, security, and economic interests of the United States and are matters of international concern. States that the United States' decision to establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China rests upon. Now, this is very important here. This is a very important distinction to make, and I did not bring it up, but we may be able to bring it up really quickly. But the People's Republic of China rests upon the expectation that the future of Taiwan will be determined by peaceful means, and that any effort to determine the future of Taiwan by other than peaceful means, including by boycotts or embargoes, is considered a threat to the peace and security of the Western Pacific area and of grave concern to the United States, right? It also states that the United States shall provide Taiwan with arms. So this harkens back to this statement over here. Where are we at? Where were we at? The commitment that we made. I like I said, I didn't watch the press conference, so I don't know if he's referring to something he said in that press conference, or if the commitment that he made is specifically referring to the United States shall provide Taiwan with arms. With arms. Okay? Let's see here, because in this article, they said traditionally avoided making such explicit security guarantees to Taiwan with which it no longer has mutual defense treaties, instead maintains a policy of strategic ambiguity about how far it will be willing to go if China invades. Where we are... not required the US to step in militarily. So when they say step in, this could be alluding to boots. Okay, I can't spell. Not spell, I was trying to write. Let me show you what I was trying to write. I was trying to put boots on the ground there, but thankfully my picture was covering it up. But when they say step in militarily, they could be alluding to boots on the ground, right? And obfuscating the fact that the treaty or the Taiwan Relations Act states that the US shall provide Taiwan with arms of a defensive character and shall maintain the capacity of the United States to resist any resort to force or any other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security, social, and or economic system of the people of Taiwan. Now, here, of Taiwan, they say, of Taiwan. This is grammatically different to what they said up here of on Taiwan, right? So let's actually bring up something really quickly here, where let's see here, um, the so this is Taiwan, right? The Republic of China on Taiwan, okay? The Republic of China on Taiwan. Because what you have to remember about Chinese Taiwanese history is that when the Cultural Revolution was happening, when the communists were fighting against the imperial, however you want to phrase them as, like the past governing party, the KMT in Taiwan, right? Um, when that conflict was happening, those folks fled because the communists won. The communists were dominating. So they fled to Taiwan to avoid utter destruction. In that, they still considered themselves to be the Republic of China, but just on Taiwan. So they were not the Republic of Taiwan. They were not the independent People's Republic, the state of Taiwan. They were the Republic of China on Taiwan. And that is still to this day what they're technically referred to as. We just colloquially, casually call them Taiwan for ease of understanding and communication, but it's the Republic of China on Taiwan. And just to solidify this, the actual like mainland party is the People's Republic of China, right? So the Communist Party led mainland Chinese, as you can see their flag here, is the People's Republic of China, right? They also believe that they are all of China's governing. So for them, Taiwan is a province within their territory. So both the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China on Taiwan hold a one China policy. The difference, the distinguish part of it is just which one of them is the legitimate China, in the sense of which one of them holds legitimate rule over China. Now, the Communist Party, the People's Republic of China maintains domination over the mainland, right? Whereas Taiwan is just on Taiwan, right? So that's important distinctions to make when they're saying these things, when they speak in these terms. So when they come in here later and they say of Taiwan, it's different than on Taiwan. Now, this all to me strikes me as a Eastern equivalence of the Monroe Doctrine. And we're going to just touch on the Monroe Doctrine really quickly, where in 1823, it was declared, what does this see here? President James Monroe, 1823 annual message to Congress contained the Monroe Doctrine, which warned European powers not to interfere in the affairs of the Western Hemisphere. Understandably, the United States has always taken a particular interest in its close neighbors, the nations of the Western Hemisphere, that's its close neighbors. Equally understandably, expressions of this concern have not always been favorably regarded by other American nations. So while America sees Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, the Caribbean as its backyard, Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, the Caribbean don't appreciate America looking at us as their backyard, right? But the Monroe Doctrine was established, let's see here, also best known the US policy towards the Western Hemisphere, buried in a routine annual message delivered to Congress by President James Monroe in December of 1823. The doctrine warned European nations that the United States would not tolerate further colonization or puppet monarchs. The doctrine was conceived to meet major concerns of the moment, but it soon became a watchword of US policy in the US hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was invoked. So basically, it's amazing to me the ebbs and flows of geopolitical posturing over history and over time, and how it kind of moves up and down like a wave, crests and undulating, because at that time in 1823, America was not a hegemon. America was not a global superpower. It was a freshly birthed nation, because what is it, what's the year that they look at as their birth date year when they were born? 1776. uh so between 76 to 23, you know, that's like 50 years, right, give or take, you know. So from birth to 50 years old, which St. Lucia, we're only like 45 years old. They were telling Europe, hey, look, y'all may be the world hegemons, y'all may be the world powers, but you see this Western Hemisphere, this is our yard. Don't mess with it, right? Don't come and interfere with it. Don't spread more colonies here. Don't do it. And what's basically happening is that ebb and flow now is China telling America, hey, the South China Sea, the 9-dash line. Actually, let me bring up the 9-dash line so at least we have a little point of reference for what I'm saying here. And this is where it becomes organic, because this was not part of my preparation here. Let me see here, the 9-dash line. So this is what China considers the 9-dash line, which is their sphere of influence, their Monroe Doctrine. This is a good picture of it. No, this is the better picture of it here. Let's see if we can view image bigger, possibly. Is this gonna, oops, error, Will Robinson, error. All right, so this is the 9-dash line, right? So you have, that's Sri Lanka. Hong Kong is somewhere around here. But they consider 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? The 9-dash line, that's why they call it that. They consider all of this to be Chinese territory, right? Now, the difference between the Monroe Doctrine and the 9-dash line is that the Monroe Doctrine would have incorporated the Philippines, Malaysia, all these places in China's sphere of influence, whereas China, for the time being, is just taking the South China Sea, right? They're not really considering the Indo-Pacific as part of their sphere of influence at the moment. But they're basically telling America, look, y'all need to back up. This is our zone. But with this Taiwan, what is it called again? Taiwan Relations Act, and other posturings that they've been doing in the South China Sea, it strikes me as them trying to impose a Monroe Doctrine in the East, right? And let's take a little quick look here at some past words of John Bolton, who was the former national security advisor to President Trump, where we're not going to go too deep into it. We're just going to take the first little part here. National Security Advisor John Bolton proudly proclaimed on Wednesday that the Monroe Doctrine is alive and well, while announcing the Trump administration's limits on the amount of money Cuban Americans can send to their relatives on the island and restricting U.S. travel to the country, right? So I'm only bringing this up to show that while the Monroe Doctrine is from 1823, like over 200, well, next year will be 200 years old. You feel me? It's still alive and well. Now, yes, this is 2019, but trust me, from John Bolton to I think Anthony Blinken is Biden's national security advisor. They are still down for the Monroe Doctrine. And from what it sounds like to me, let's head over to the Solomon Islands. It's not only for the Western Hemisphere, but they need or want a Monroe Doctrine for the Eastern Hemisphere. I didn't bring it up, but Joe Biden had recently talked about that there is a new world order developing, and that the US must be the one to lead this new world order. And basically they're saying, because it's China versus US, right? It may not be hot yet, and it may be hot. We may not just know about its heat. But let's take a look at this here and how this will relate to a Monroe Doctrine of the East, right? We need to do better. US to step up Pacific efforts after Solomon's pact with China, so the Solomon Islands. From Washington, the US will step up its efforts in the Pacific following the security pact between Solomon Islands and China, conceding that better coordination is needed with Australia and other allies to safeguard the region from the growing threat of Beijing, right? The growing threat of Beijing. What is it called? Thucydides trap? Let's see here. I think that's what it's called. I don't know how to spell it. This is we'll do a piece on this as well one of these days. But basically, this is what they're getting at, right? Let's see if we can find what this is. I typically don't like to use wiki as a source, but let's pick this up really quickly. Thucydides' trap, or is a term popularized by American political science Graham T. Allison to describe an apparent tendency towards war when an emerging power threatens to displace an existing great power as a regional or international hegemon, right? So basically, what this is saying is that as the rise of China into world hegemonic status, it will naturally threaten America to displace America because, you know, there is a limited amount of space that we are dealing with. And as things ebb and flow and undulate and turn and spin, you know, when one grows stronger, another must grow weaker, right? Like there's just not enough for them both to grow equally as strong, right? So with the rise of China, it threatens the fall of America. So America wants to push back and cause China not to rise and beat them down a little bit to keep them underneath them so that they can maintain their hegemonic status. Um, so within that's explicit there, right? Uh, but 2 weeks after leading a delegation to the Solomons in an attempt to thwart the pact, President Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific coordinator Kurt Campbell declined to address Scott Morrison's comments that any attempt, Scott Morrison being the Australian Prime Minister, that any attempts to establish a military base on the island would constitute a geostrategic red line. Red line. Red line. And if it's a red line for Australia, it's a red line for America. And I'm going to tell you this. Pardon me. It's really a red line for America. And they're the ones making Australia make it a red line, right? I mean, of course, Australia is concerned with it because let's take a look at where the Solomon Islands are in relation to Australia. And we'll see that, you know, while on the map, it may look far away. Nope, stay up here, stay up here. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. So we got the Solomon Islands here. Where's Australia at? Where's Australia at? You see Australia over here, right? This may seem relatively close, but it is very far. Like that is thousands of kilometers or miles away. I don't know how to use this to get like a distance reading, but it's not like you can throw a stone from the Solomon Islands into Australia, right? So they do have legitimate concerns over a military base here because it would definitely disturb their territorial integrity. But a red line for them is a red line for America and vice versa. Solomon Islands Foreign Minister Jeremiah Manala, I don't know how to pronounce that, Mala, left, which is this guy over here. And then that's the Chinese guy on the right. Okay, that's what that picture's saying. But anyways, we don't need to get into this story. The whole point of this was to identify that this is a red line for them, right? So this is America, the Western allies looking to establish a Eastern Monroe Doctrine in the Indo-Pacific area. Maybe not necessarily the South China Sea, though there have been a lot of concerns regarding the Spratly Islands. Let me see if I can find that really quickly, though I don't want Thucydides' trap, and then we'll end it out here. Because the claim is, and we can investigate this for a future episode, the claim is that, oh no, we want maps, that the Chinese have been actually creating a bunch of military bases on the Spratly Islands. It's an area where, what's going on here? Let's zoom out, let's zoom out, let's zoom out. We need to see more here. Where is this? Wow, wow, why is this not populating? All right, I think this was a fail. Oh no, here we go. Wow, that's just to show you how small how massive this area is in reality, right? So there's a bunch of little islands here. If we go back to the 9 dash line, I think we may see it better. We saw a picture of the 9 dash line, and it had a couple of dots representing the Spratly Islands. But China has been installing military bases on these islands, and that's been something that America has called a red line for a while regarding China. China's plans to invade Taiwan. Let's see if we can big this up because I can see it, but I know you cannot see it per se. Where is it out here? Where is it out here? There we go. You see all these little dots? And that's them zooming in on it, right? But that's the Spratly Islands. So there's several military bases from the Chinese here, right? So that's why the US and Australia are saying, hey, that's inside your 9 dash line. We can live with that within reason. But the moment you start coming into our space, into the Indo-Pacific, we're going to call that a no-no. So it's going to be interesting to see how specifically India plays into all of this. And we'll cover this in future installments because India, while they may not be a super powerful military, they're definitely up there. They're a nuclear power. And population-wise, they're on par with China. And they're kind of playing a very delicate game right now where they are dancing with America, Russia, China, like they feel like the belle of the ball right now because all these superpowers are trying to get them on their side, because while India in and of itself will not determine how this all ends up, they're going to be a major factor in advantages and disadvantages in this coming conflict. So thank you for joining me today. This was recorded live. If you want to check me out live while I'm doing all of this, like we did the preparatory work for this live, check me out on my channel. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Jody Von Wall. Let's bring it up here really quickly. Yep, you can check me out on my channel, Jody Von Wall. That's it right here. That's where we're live. And of course, be strong, stay safe, and God bless St. Lucia. Oh, I need to end. How do I end this again? Yeah.